So I want to talk a little bit about the components, creating a couple of components, and just visually seeing here how they connect with each other. So currently I just made a brand new project called Sample Project, and I opened it up on my editor. And I wanted to show you here that in the editor, under the source folder of the new project we created with Angular's command line interface, by typing in the words ng new and the name of the project, right? It would create a project for us. So the folders are right here. The source folder has inside of it the app folder, and everything lives in the app folder that we will work on. And of course, the static files would be in this assets folder, and then environments folder here is about general environments. But anyways, in the assets folder right now, we can see here we have components. The component.ts is the initial component. Think of this as like all of your JavaScript code. The HTML is the template that this component is going to load, and it's going to actually show right here the path that is loading the template. And then the CSS file for this component specifically is this file right here, which has nothing in it. So those are the three files. This fourth file here is a spec file for test-driven development. We're not going to use it right now, so I'm just going to delete it so we don't even have it in our list. It's good to keep it there because later on we will do test-driven development, but for now we don't need it. And the last piece, of course, is the app.module.ts. Now, this thing is one file that has all of the components that we generate as part of it to register these components with Angular. So Angular knows to look for these components when it's looking at all of the selectors. Now, one quick thing to point out is that even the initial app component that's given to us, that has over here all of this metadata that we talked about, this app root tag, as you see here, it's not a class because otherwise we put a dot here, and now we're implying find any element with a class of app root and load this component in it. Right now we're saying find any tag called app root and load this entire component in it. Load this HTML in it, load this CSS in that tag, and then run this block of JavaScript code in that component. If we go to our initial index.html file that's created by Angular for us, there it is, app root. So within this block of code, this will get deleted, and inside of this, we will get the HTML code, we'll get the CSS code affecting it, and then we'll get all of the JavaScript code affecting it as well. So let's create a couple of components. This is the root component. We usually don't mess with the root component. We'll leave it as is. We're going to switch over here, and I am currently in a sample project folder. I can simply say ng for the command line interface, generate, or just G for short, component, or just C for short, and then we'll type in the component name we want to generate. For example, we want a node component to be generated. So as soon as I hit enter, they'll create the files here, the node.css, the HTML spec file, and TS file. So if I switch over here, you'll notice a new folder showed up. Now, this node component is only going to load if I use a selector named app-node. So this is nice to always look at this and identify this. But this component needs to be registered with Angular for this to be available. So if I go to app-module.ts, I will notice that a new app node component has been registered in my declarations. This is done for me by the command line interface. Otherwise, I would have to import this class from the file directory that the file is in, and I would have to declare it here. But all components that we create, Angular's command line interface will do the import and put it in my app module for me. Now, still, it's not part of my application, rather, because the only thing that's loading is my app component. And to see that, I'm going to do ng serve, which is the way that I can tell my project to load, to run. And as soon as it's done packaging everything with Webpack and getting everything ready, we will actually run this. And we'll go here in our localhost 4200 because it will actually say here that it'll run in port 4200. There it is, localhost 4200. So let's go here, localhost 4200, and there it is. We are loading. AppWorks is the HTML in our default app component. Now, since the node component requires the app node tag to be loaded, I'm going to go to the app node components HTML, its template, and right under the title here, we're going to put this tag there, right? So we know this is registered because we loaded it through the CLI. Now we just added the tag itself. I'm going to save it. I'm going to switch over, and now we can notice that that component has loaded. That's pretty much it. Every time we create a new component, every time we use that tag, as long as we know that that component has been registered with the app module, which is done for us, and as long as we are, putting this tag in some kind of component that's already loading, in this case, for example, the app component.html, or rather the app component, which always loads because it's default, that tag will show up. And it's modular in a sense that as many times as I use this tag, it will load the tag. And I'm going to show you one more quick example. I'm going to open a new terminal and generate another component here. This is just shortcut here, ngc generate component widget. So now I'm creating a widget component. If you notice here, a new folder showed up there. If I look at the TS file for that widget, the way I can select, or rather I can have this component load, is under app widget tag. And also, just to double check, we go to the app modules. We'll see here the widget component loaded on its own. So we can go back to the app component.html. Let's make sure we only have one app node there. Let's see what it looks like. There it is. Node works. Default template. Let's add app widget under it. Let's save it. Let's switch over, and there it is. And that's how simple it is for us to be able to add components inside of components.